There's many things I'm passionate about, one of which is the internet. And over the last 4 years, I've developed a whole series of business presentations, which I give periodically. It's great because when you run short because a speaker doesn't pitch up, you've got something else you can drop in. So I've got a dozen presentations now, and they are all related to business because you guys at the end of the day are business people. Sure, you know, you're a marine surveyor, but you need to understand a whole raft of other stuff within your business. And the web, this is actually one of the first presentations I put together. And this is just a few tips on what you should be doing on a website to make it look good and fit for purpose. Does everybody have a website? So not everybody, not everybody. Okay, that's an interesting start. In my opinion, quite simply, your website is one of the most important weapons in your marketing armory. People have this misapprehension or misunderstanding that having a website is hugely expensive. It doesn't need to be. And I think it's absolutely valuable. In fact, it's invaluable. So for me, it's unthinkable that any small business doesn't have a website. There are over 1 billion websites in existence now. There's millions and millions and millions of them. And I just think you're missing a trick if you don't have one. These days, website designers are plentiful. And because of that, supply and demand now to build a website doesn't cost much. To build the IIMS website cost us $500. If you take a look at it, it's a pretty weighty tome. All right, you could argue that there was a lot of my time went into it and all the rest of it, but at the end of the day, the actual cost was $500. You need to have the most basic of IT skills. There's plenty of good packages around. You may know WordPress, Wix, and Weebly. I'm sure they're here in the States. They're probably American companies, or started here and then spread to the UK. I've now got about 19, I think it is, sites currently operating through WordPress. WordPress is effectively, it's an open source, it's free. You need to pay for a bit of hosting space, but you know, hosting space is $10 a month, it's nothing. And then you can build your site in WordPress. WordPress is incredibly instinctive, very, very simple to use. They don't make it complicated. And if you get stuck, you just go online and Google whatever it is you're looking for on WordPress, and there'll be a video about it, and it'll tell you how to do it. Just fabulous, really, really good. So one of the things we do offer members actually is an inexpensive web building service. That's something we built about 10 sites for members in the last few years. Always happy to help if we can. So what does your website say about you? Well, I want to just talk about what makes a website appealing. I touched earlier, right at the start of the day, on how long people spend on websites. If you get someone to stay on your site for more than 10 seconds, you've done pretty well. You've got to grab them, and you get one go to grab them. So the layout and architecture of your site is of primary importance. Before I build a website, I sit down with a piece of paper and I draw out the route map. You have to make sure that it's logical to get through your site. So they're well organized and with that logical structure. Make it easy. Don't hide content that you want people to actually see. Put it out in the front. The web is entirely different to how people read a book because people don't read websites. They scan web pages. They pick up little bits. Make sure that your site is not cluttered and it should be purposeful. And remember the target audience. You must write for your target audience. The people who are hitting your website are hitting your website because they're looking for a marine surveyor. So hit them with the information about marine surveying. White space is a really positive thing. You look at sites these days that have black backgrounds to them and blue writing on the black and you can't read it. Lots of white space. It's very much the in thing. Key site features, you must have easy to use site navigation. So they need to say or need to find what they want within 3 clicks. If it's more than 3 clicks, then I would say with 2 clicks. If it's more than 3, you've lost people. They just won't stay with you. As I've said, you've got very, very few seconds. Top quality web design. Well, again, people start thinking as soon as you say top quality, that means expensive. It doesn't mean expensive. We have 6 quality images on the slider on the IIMS website. I think we paid $30 for all 6 in total. So it doesn't cost much. You just go to a royalty-free site, pay a few quid, not a royalty-free site, somebody like Photolia, Adobe, any of those places. It costs you a few pounds for some great quality images. Sure, if you're a photographer, take your own images, use them, that's fine. But be prepared to pay a few dollars just to make it work. Speed to load. A lot of, in the old days when the web first came around, websites were incredibly slow. And I mean, people just won't buy that anymore. Your site has to load fast, fast, fast. And all I would say again is with web hosting space being so cheap and plentiful, if your site doesn't load fast, then just move to another provider because there are plenty of them. It should be instant. Content is king. That's a phrase that been around for years. I mean, we built our first websites in 1993. We were a very early adopter of the web. And it was true then, and it's true now. Content is king. So think about the websites that you go to and use in your own personal life. You know, you go there because of the depth and the quality of the content. I take all of my news these days from BBC News in the UK. It's fantastic. Why do I go there? It's free, it's current, it's up to date, and get everything I need. So it's about content. Make it easy to read. As I've said, people scan a website, and sometimes less is more on a website. Use images. Let people see. Quite nice to see an image of you guys. You know, I'm amazed how many sites you go to and there's no image of the surveyor on it. Actually, people are buying into you. They're buying into your skills as well, but they're actually buying into you and what you can offer. And I've seen images of people looking very, very miserable. Well, you know, is someone going to buy from someone who's got a miserable photo? Have a picture of you smiling, looking happy, looking as if you actually want to do business with these people. I've touched on the black background with blue writing or whatever. I mean, that's common. And use headings to break up your content. Really, really important. Easy to do. You put some bold headlines in because, again, people are drawn to those headlines naturally. Right, this is how people read a website. It's called the F pattern. And you can see the hot spots where the eyes go on a page. This is pretty sophisticated eye tracking software. And it simply says that this is where people will, or how they will view a web page. As you can see, the blue areas are areas that are not getting seen. The red are areas that absolutely are getting seen. You should reflect that in your design of your web page. And we'll touch a bit more on that in a minute. So there's something called the Gutenberg diagram. I have no idea who Mr. Gutenberg was, but he developed this diagram. And think of your page like this. So in the top left-hand corner is your primary optical area. Top right is the strong fallow area. Bottom left is the weak fallow area. And then you've got the terminal area. Has anybody heard of the phrase the fold? So the fold is what appears on the screen when people first hit. The fold actually is an old newspaper term, when you used to fold a tabloid newspaper or a broadsheet newspaper in half. It's the same with an internet page. If you don't display your content above the fold, if you're making people scroll down and down and down, do you know what? They don't do it. Get that information above the fold on your page. So let's look at these in a bit more detail. So the higher left, or the top left-hand portion of the page is the user primary focus. This is where the eye will automatically focus regardless if the site visitor is searching for something, wanting to read, or just scanning the page for information. It's just how it is. The strong fallow area is the second stage of the reading habit. Then the eye moves across to the right and to the higher part of the right. So think of it as a follow-up from the left portion, but slightly less important. Not a good idea to break the reader's experience created from the starting point. You want to keep a flow going through it. And you should put call to action in that area. If you look at really, really good, busy websites, there's going to be a call to action, which I would suggest is a phone number and email address, probably in the top right-hand corner of the website. That seems to be what current thinking is. The weak fallow area, the left-hand part of it it's the blind spot. Don't put stuff in there you want people to read because they won't read it. So it is readable, but they don't give it the importance that other areas of your page do. Terminal area, when the user reaches the lower right portion of the page, that's when there's a break in reading or the page scanning process. And at that point, you need to encourage the visitor to take some sort of action. So what do you want the reader to do? Put a call to action button in there, ask them to click there to do something, ask them to click to contact you, repeat your phone number, give them something to do before they leave that page. So most people read from left to right, and research shows that web users spend 69% of their time viewing the left half of the page and only 31% viewing the right half of the page. Again, you can easily reflect that in the way you set your pages up. Just a few reasons why people will be put off. Auto sound, it's just dreadful. Please don't put auto sound on your site. Fine to put some videos in there and link people to some other content, but when you get hit by a wall of sound as you come to a website, it's a real turn off for people. Pop-ups, I think, are dreadful. That's a personal opinion. I won't have any pop-ups on any of the sites we're involved with. The first thing you do is you've hit somebody's website. Tell us what you think about our website. Whoa, hey, hang on, guys. You know, I've only just arrived. Give me something first before you start asking me to critique your site. We've touched on the slowness to load, very, very important. Poor navigation, again, if people can't easily get to the information, you will just lose them from the site. Missing or hard to locate key information, such as your contact details again. I'm amazed how many people don't show a phone number, or they bury the phone number on, 7 clicks away from the home page where people can't get too fast. Put your phone number up there, people are going to call you. Again, a lot of sites want you to register immediately. Click here to give us your details. No, I haven't invested any of my time in your site yet. I want to know if you have something of interest to me. If you do, then I might be prepared to give you my details. Don't ask for it straight away. Things that go flash and bang on a page, horrible. They look amateurish. So if you've got things that flash on the page, I would take them off. So a few more. Bad grammar and spelling mistakes. Now, this is just so obvious to me. I'm absolutely amazed. I went to a surveyor. He's a UK surveyor. I regard him as a pretty competent surveyor. I was on his site the other day. There were 6 spelling mistakes on his homepage. What does that say about the surveyor? You guys are there delivering quality reports that are proofread, and you're putting out meticulous detail. Well, this guy had a shed load of spelling mistakes on his homepage. I called him up. I was not embarrassed to say to him, you need to get your page proofread, because it's just going to irritate the socks off people. You ought to have an about page on and make that really, really easy for people to get to. So they want to know quickly, who are you? What are your skills? What can you do for me? Remember, they are looking for a solution to a problem. And let's face it, purchasing a marine survey is not really something everybody wants to do. For many, many people, it is a distressed purchase. So they've already come to your site and they're a bit, oh God, I've got to have a marine survey done. So be upbeat about it. Tell them what you can do to help them. Tell them about yourself. It's your chance to sell your skills. Make it easy. A lot of people write in jargon. Bear in mind, if you're a boat owner who's buying a boat for the first time and you want to get a survey done, for example, you don't understand jargon. You're buying a boat, you just want a survey done. So write in everyday language that people can understand. Sites, as I've said, that have no personality, even for an organization that has a very mundane product or service, the site does not have to reflect that. You can make your site look really, really upbeat and so on, even if you're selling something that's quite a dreary product. Keep your site clean, crisp, and contemporary. So a few pointers for web success. We've already touched on where people come into your site, so reflect your page design by putting that really important content in the top left-hand corner. People will only scan parts of your website. Remember that. They don't read it. And a bit like a book, this is quite interesting. You wouldn't start a book on page 85, would you? You'd start on page 1 and read the book through to the end. Generally, that's what we do. With a website, people could appear on any page on your website. So they don't necessarily come in through the home page. If you've got something that Google's picked up about, your fees or something, they might come in on your fees page, on your services page. So they're not necessarily coming on the home page. You need to reflect that too. The site menu works best, in my opinion, when it's at the top of the page or top of your site. So again, if you've got some drop-down box options, which most sites do have these days, so you've got your headlines, you might have 5 or 6 headlines, you might have 3 or 4 dropping down from there. Put it at the top of the page. It's easy to use, easy to get to. Short paragraphs. Writing for the web is entirely different. Most people write far too much content for the websites. Again, remember, people are there short space of time. They're scanning. So you want to be really, really short and concise in what you're telling them. Remember headlines. I've touched on those. And visitors research says we'll spend more time looking at menus and buttons than other parts of your site. So make sure your navigation is clear and efficient, and make sure those buttons take them somewhere important. So people are going to click a button, what they're going to do? You're going to call me. You're going to contact me. There's a hot button on the page. Make them do it. Text attracts more attention than pictures. That's slightly odd, isn't it? But pictures are important because pictures do tell a story. But the text is important. I've touched on banners and pop-ups. Avoid those. Fancy fonts. I'm always amazed again at when people want to make their site look slightly quirky. They use fonts that are unreadable. Why on earth would you do that on a web page? But people do. So stick to the standard fonts. In actual fact, if you use WordPress, WordPress does all of that for you. You don't have to worry about choosing fonts. It'll give you the best font. Big pictures are better than small ones. Lists are better at keeping the reader focused than large paragraphs. So if you can list out half a dozen of your key services, one after another, that's the way to do it rather than writing 500 words. White space I've touched on, white page background, thoroughly recommended. A little bit of advice on URLs. If you don't know what a URL stands for, unique resource locator. It's your website address. I'm not going to touch on search engine optimization. I have got another presentation on that, but oh boy, that's a whole different thing. But here is an important tip. Check out your URL. Load your own website and have a look at it. Does it look like this? johnsonsurveyors.com/137893762, or does it look like this? IIMS.org.uk, what's on IIMS events meetings? So imagine you are a Google Spider, which is exactly what they are. Google send these spiders out into your website. They come into your website, they take that information back. They then go through their wonderful way that Google does with their algorithms, and they're going to say, what's this page about Johnson Surveyors all about? What's 13789? What's that telling us? So the Google Spider, you've confused the Google Spider at that point. Whereas the other one says, what's on IIMS meetings and events? Ah, we know what that's all about. We can categorize that page, and you'll find that page will appear much, much higher, if not at the top of Google, than the first example. So check your URLs. They're easy to change. If you've got things that don't say what that page is about, Google cannot index it effectively. So which URL is helpful? I think I've explained that. Look at the back end of your website. Oh gosh, very, very few people do this. Site tracking is free. Google Analytics is free. It's a brilliant tool. We are in and out of Google Analytics every day. Understand how many unique visitors you've got. No, not so much who they are, because you won't know who they are, but is it growing? Or is it static? How many people are returning visitors? All of that stuff is freely available. Know how many page views your site gets. Understand which pages attract more views than others. Again, really, really interesting. We have some content on the IIMS website. There's an article on stevedores, and every month that article seems to get 3,000 or 4,000 page views. Why? Because if you type stevedores into Google, the IIMS website comes up top every time. So it's just a really well optimized story. So we know that page is going to attract a lot of content. We can then put other things on that page because we know it's a popular page. So understand which are your popular pages. You can also find out which pages people leave your site on. And I find that absolutely fascinating. If you know where people are leaving your site, you need to address that page. There's something wrong with that page. Well, not necessarily wrong, but it's something there that is not keeping them on your site. Maybe that's a page again where you need to say, put a contact button in, put something in there to stop them leaving that page before they've contacted you and engaged with you. You can check and see which other sites refer traffic to your site. Google, I would suggest, is probably the most important one. We have something like on the IIMS website, 2,500 backlinks to the site. If you can get backlinks from anywhere, they really, really push your ratings up Google. We've worked quite hard to do that, and sometimes it's just asking somebody, will you put a link back to my site? And they say, yeah, sure, great, I'm happy to do that. So anybody who links back to you will push you up the rankings. So Google Analytics should be your friend. You don't have to be in it every day, but once a month it's quite good just to look in and just see what your site's doing. Here's a little tip as well. So if you want to know how good your site is, any of these four are worth going to. They'll all tell you things about your site. They're all free. You just type your URL in and it will hit out and tell you what's going on. So I looked at a few. These are pretty much UK sites. Rightmove.com is a real estate property portal. It's a good site. Many people use it. It's the biggest of its kind in the UK. It scores 84 out of 100. That's pretty good. You probably can't see these small bars here. Where it doesn't do so well in is that third bar, the yellow bar, which is search engine optimization. So they are slightly not good on that. They're pretty good on everything else. This is Amazon. Amazon only scores 59. I was actually shocked when I saw this. This is Website Grader. I think this was done on. The SEO, Amazon has 0 SEO. Maybe that's because they're Amazon and we all know who they are and they don't need to bother about it. But they don't score very well in terms of their website. Here's a little quirky site. It's called Canal Junction. It's very much a UK site. It's not a particularly good site. Scores 52. Interesting enough, it scores 0 on security. You must make your site secure these days. People get a bit funny nowadays about going onto sites that are not secure. An SSL certificate won't cost you many dollars, but you should have an SSL certificate. Makes it safe. They also don't do, interesting enough there, they score 0 on mobile. So what they haven't done when they built this site is to see whether or not you can use it on a mobile. That is the other thing. WordPress will perform on, as indeed will Wix and Weebly, all of them. They'll all perform on all of those devices. But this site was obviously built in an old bit of software. It doesn't work on a mobile. In this day and age, that's pretty dramatically wrong. Here's one chosen at random, anglo-euro-marine.co.uk. I'm pleased to say they're not a member of IIMS, so I pinched this. Again, 48 it scores. Nothing on mobile. They haven't optimized the site for mobile at all. The site is insecure and it's not very good on search engine optimization either. So if I was the owner of that website, I want to do something about it. This is us, IIMS. We score 82. Fun enough, when this was done, we weren't doing very well on performance. Our site was running a bit slow. It was running a bit slow because there's so much content on there that in the end I moved to another hosting company, and that's gone up now. We're rating about 20 on that one. As you can see, we're optimized for mobile, we're optimized for SEO, and it's a secure site. So I'm pretty happy with that. That's all I wanted to say. I'm happy to take any questions. It's a bit of a dark art, the web, but anybody want to ask me anything?
How do I check my URL?
Say again.
How do I check my URL?
Well, just type your website in and see what it says in that bar across the top of your page. Yeah, I mean, yes, just open up your page, and at the top of every page, it tells you what page you are on. So it will say www. whatever, and just scroll through your sites and see what it's telling you in that top bar on each page. And if it's not giving you an explanation as to what the page is, and sometimes the other thing, of course, is I've seen this as well, where people, they name a page, and then the content in the page doesn't actually bear any resemblance to the name of the page. Again, you're just confusing Google and indeed any other search engine. So make sure if it says this is a page about news, that you've got some news on it. Or if it's a page about how to contact me, make sure it's got contact details on there. Otherwise, you're spoofing the search engine. Does that help? Yes. Yeah, I'm never happy to offer my services up for free, but if anybody wants any advice anytime, just shout me, because it is a bit of a hobby. I enjoy it, and it's good fault finding it. James, I think we've reached that point.